Hello, welcome to the Devlin Bishop Show, and it's good to be back. We took a week off last week. That was my problem, and yeah, I just wasn't feeling myself, and I'll get to that in a minute because we got movies to talk about. How are you doing today, Corda, my sidekick? You
Okay,
doing good?
yeah, yeah.
You ready to talk about some of these? I know you've seen some of these. Some of these you probably haven't seen, but we will talk about them. And before we get to that, though, the reason I didn't come on last week is I just wasn't feeling it. I've been having a rough week, and I've actually noticed a lot of people have been.
Mhm.
In fact, this year has pretty much been a write off for most people. I've been holding up pretty good, but I get days, and going back to work hasn't really helped. So
Yeah.
I just want to send a little bit of love and light to anybody who needs it right now. And thank you for clicking on this as a diversion to get out of your head and get into your thoughts. And just know that you're not alone. And yeah, if you're struggling, just don't give up. That's all I can say. I have days where I feel like I want to give up, but it's just not going to happen. I'm just not programmed that way, although sometimes you just never know.
Mhm.
So, anyhow, so yes, we missed it, and yeah, every once in a while that's going to happen, but it's not a bad thing. It just recharge your batteries, and we have got a topic to talk about today. And today I am going to be talking about what I consider some of the worst sequels of all time. Now, before we start, this is my opinion, and you can agree or disagree with me, and please do so in the comments. All I ask is please be nice and civil down there. We love movies, so let's have a good conversation about them. If you don't see one that you think should be in here, definitely let us know because I want to talk to you about them. The reasons you might not see them on this list is number one, some of the sequels that are considered bad, I actually kind of like. I won't lie. Yeah, I won't name them because I actually want to do another one in the future about sequels I didn't want, but I loved anyhow. And some of them would be surprising because I know some people absolutely hate these movies.
Oh.
So, yeah, so that's why they might not be on here. So if you're looking for a particular movie, like, oh, he's got to hate that, remember, I kind of, like everyone else, I have my own tastes in movies, and yes, some are god awful, and I can admit that, but I still get enjoyment from them. So that they're not on here. These are only ones that I have very little respect for. And the other one is I may not have seen one that you may have saw,
Mhm.
or I may have forgotten. I've been doing my research and trying to remember as many as I could today. I came up with about 13.
Oh
Some
wow.
I will talk with in depth, some I just won't. I just want to talk about them as much as I can, but some I just don't want to relive or give that much publicity to. But we will try to cover some and spend a good time talking movies today. And yeah, so strap in because I am going to look at what I consider some of the worst movies of all time. And I will try to explain, you know, why to the best of my ability. Some it just might have rubbed me the wrong way, and you may not even have that feeling about those movies, and that's okay. Just
Mhm.
let me know what you think. If I'm wrong, I want to hear about it. If I'm right, I want to hear about it. If I miss some that aren't in here. Now, I said these are some of the really bad ones. So there were some that were on the cusp, and some of these I may give some leeway to, but most of these I didn't. So yeah, some I was on the fence and I decided not to because there is at least something redeemable about these, but these I consider the worst. And let's not dilly dally anymore. You came here to talk movies, and that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to start with a humdinger. A humdinger, we're going to call it. Probably one of the worst movies I have ever seen. We're going to start off with The Exorcist 2, The Heretic. Now, I know you've seen this one,
Yep.
Heather. This is bad, okay?
When I think
Well,
of bad sequels, this is the one I think of. This is
yes.
yeah,
Oh, this isn't just a bad sequel. This is a bad movie.
yes,
Like this couldn't stand on its own. The Exorcist, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It's groundbreaking. It was the first horror film ever to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It was a blockbuster. If you want to ever have a good time, go on YouTube and watch footage of people that were like passing out or had to leave the theater because it was just too much for people. Because back then, there was not a movie like The Exorcist.
yeah.
And what we can say about its sequel is there certainly wasn't a movie like its sequel, although there is one horror film that I do think comes very close.
Oh,
But we'll get to that later on in the list because I want to change it up a little. So this one is like nothing, almost nothing really to do with the first movie.
yeah.
So if you you're not familiar with The Exorcist, it's basically simply about a teenage girl, preteen girl, who gets abducted. No, what's the word I'm looking for?
Possessed.
Possessed by the devil,
Yeah.
and then Exorcist, hence the name, comes in and basically saves her. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
So you would think, okay, she gets repossessed in the sequel.
Would make sense.
Well, she is in the sequel, but only a little bit. And I don't blame her for being in the
No.
sequel. She was young. She really didn't have much going. She was doing a whole bunch of exploitive films, but she was still young. So, yes, of course, anything with a sequel on it. Do I blame the studio? Yes, because they were just going for big money. And this movie did not get it because people knew it was a stinker right from the start. Yeah, it follows Richard Burton, who I believe plays a priest, and it deals with, like, I want to say the end of times because I know they deal with locusts and they deal with all this other stuff like the apocalyptic stuff.
Mhm.
There is a little bit of hints that it could have something to do with the devil that possessed Linda Blair, but
Yeah.
it's so not well done that it and Richard Burton was a big actor at the time. So he probably saw, oh, The Exorcist, the first one, is huge. I'll get an Academy Award for sure.
Should have read
No,
the script better.
it just one thing, if you were terrified by The Exorcist, or maybe a younger generation still doesn't feel it. One thing I don't think you can say about Exorcist was it was boring.
Yeah.
And The Exorcist 2 is. There are just scenes that just prolong. There's like machines that can literally drive you crazy. I just remember this one machine like bow, bow.
Yeah.
And Richard Burton just fighting giant grasshoppers. And the sad thing is I actually forget a lot what this movie is about. And then I go rewatch reviews of how bad it is so I can be reminded
Yeah.
because I don't want to give this another chance because
No.
it was so horrible.
Mhm.
And I there's rumors that they did a third one. Well, not rumors. There is fact they did a third one that is a lot better. But again, and this is a common theme. There's a lot of movies on my list that stop me from seeing the sequels. So this was one I haven't given Exorcist 3 a chance. This is so horrible. Now, I'm not the kind that says a particular movie ruins. I don't. I just try to forget. I just like to think that Linda Blair's character just had a happy life after this, never had to deal with the devil again, and that's it. And especially don't have to feel her dealing with the heretic Exorcist too. All right, let's move on. I've talked way too much about that. All right, this movie gets extra marks because it just pisses me off. And the reason why is because before this movie came out, the directors, the producers, everybody said, oh, it's not going to be exactly like the first one. And guess what? It was. And I'm talking about The Hangover Part 2.
Oh.
This is I loved the first Hangover. I actually went to it not thinking I would like it, and I actually enjoyed it. Now, you never saw The Hangover, did
Yeah.
you? Okay. The Hangover was, I thought, a very funny, not maybe not intellectual, but it was well written. And basically, The Hangover, for anybody who hasn't seen it or needs a reminder, was basically about these guys getting ready for a bachelor weekend in Las Vegas, and they lose the groom.
Oh, okay.
And nobody remembers what happened, and they play out while they search for him, basically find out all this stuff happened, mystery tattoos, strange animals in their hotel room. So
Okay.
they get all this stuff that they wake up to and have to go back, and it's almost like a reverse murder mystery to find out what happened and why suddenly people have tattoos, or why suddenly, like, it's
Okay.
crazy. So I didn't want a sequel to this because I thought it was one and done, and they gave us a trilogy. But again, the second one was so bad, I avoided it like the plague. When I went into the theater, and I don't know why, I just knew it was going to be the same. They said it's going to be totally different.
Uh-huh.
Literally, the script must have been Mad Libs, and they just crossed out monkey, or and put, I think monkey was in the second one, I can't remember, and then they put like a tiger, or like they just changed everything up,
Yeah.
making it a totally different movie. But it's not, because you know that, oh, well, that sort of happened in this one, and that sort of happened in this one, but they just changed the location or the
Oh,
person or the thing. And it was just didn't feel right seeing this again. It was like everything you hope a sequel isn't. Now, they say with sequels, successful sequels, you need to give people what they want all over again. And to some degree,
yeah.
I agree. Like with horror movies, they say, well, you give them the same movie, but you just up the horror
Yeah.
and up the body counts. But
Yeah.
in this movie, it just, what pissed me off most is how diligent they were telling you this is not a recreation of the first one.
Yeah.
It was. Stop me from seeing number three. I have no interest. This one did not harm the first one. As I said, it's
That's good.
still a fun movie to watch. And the second one just like, even some of the characters were annoying. Zach Galifianakis, he actually usually rubs me the wrong way. I really liked him in the first one. The second one, it just drove me absolutely, absolutely crazy. And everybody else seemed like they were there for a paycheck. Nobody was invested in this. They were just happy, hey, we got another movie out of this, and hey, we're going to get another one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it stopped me cold from seeing any of the other ones.
Yeah.
Let's go bigger on this next one. And this one again stopped me from seeing any of the other sequels because I surprisingly like the first movie. But my next sequel is Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest, the second in the series, because I gave up after that because I thought this movie was so bad. I loved the first
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean. I actually thought it was really well done. I thought Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow was incredible. I loved that after so many attempts to bring pirate movies back, because I'm a fan of pirate
Oh
movies,
yeah.
but for a while there, Cutthroat Island, there was a movie called Pirates, the pirate movie. None of these movies could make it work.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying none of these were any good. I'm just saying that they were all blockbuster bombs, and
Yeah.
nobody, and Pirates of the Caribbean brought pirates back cool again. And from what I heard, helped attraction at Disneyland do better. Or World. Is it Disney World or Disneyland?
Both. I think it's at both.
Now, have you seen Pirates of the Caribbean? You've seen the
Oh
first
yeah.
one.
Yep. I've
Did
seen
you
both.
ever see the second, third, fourth?
I have. I don't really remember the second one. I know.
Okay, so
I think it might be the
I'm
fourth one
excited.
I liked, but
Pardon?
I think in the fourth one I liked, but I can't remember the second and third ones.
Well,
Hmm.
it's possible the third and fourth, and I would almost say there might have been a fifth one in there. I don't know. They make
Right.
so many of these. But this stopped me cold. I had no interest in going back in it. And again, Johnny Depp was fine. You
Yeah.
know, as Jack Sparrow was, it's an iconic character. I really enjoyed it the first time.
Yeah.
Second time, I enjoyed it again. I liked a lot of the stuff. And then I just started losing me when the traveling was happening so quickly.
Oh.
Ships were going back and forth. Like, shouldn't this be like year long voyage or a couple of months? And it seemed
Mhm.
people could zip around like wherever they needed to get to. But
Mhm.
I can't remember the name of the monster. Was it the Kraken?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, I
I know
it
he's in
could
one
be,
of them.
yeah, it could be the one from Clash of the Titans, but I could be wrong. But I remember they did this sequence where they showed what happens when this sea monster devours a ship.
Yeah.
And it took a while, and the visuals were absolutely stunning. And I enjoyed that, even though I was not loving this sequel.
Hmm.
Then they come up to the finale. There might be a bit of a spoiler here, but if you're a Pirates fan, you've seen all these anyhow.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they show that Johnny Depp's ship is going to be attacked by the Kraken again. And once again, we have to sit through pretty much the same footage, except now Johnny Depp is in it. And
Oh,
this really pissed me off
yeah.
because here we have this amazing sequence that they already showed what happens when the sea monster, the Kraken, or whatever it is, comes after them. And then we sit there like we're supposed to be in shock again. It's kind of like, I'm not going to say it because I'm going to go down a rabbit hole if I say it's like, when Titanic shows you how the ship's going to go, and then we have to sit and watch how the ship's going to go.
Yeah.
That would have been much more exciting for us people who don't know our history.
Yeah.
So to see that, well, I know the tentacles are going to come up and this, and, and then to leave us with a, what's going to happen. And it's like, well, we know he's going to survive because Disney's making a ton of money on this. And like, I just could not buy it. And I was just,
Yeah.
it just felt to me like a Disney wanted a paycheck and they didn't really find anything. And there is a lot of good stuff in there, but enough to stop the franchise cold for me over and out. My next movie is one nobody talks about, and I think it's because I think people have forgotten this movie. And a lot of people talk about the prequel they made of this and don't talk about this one. Well, I've never seen the prequel, so I'm not going to judge that. But I am going to judge the stinky, there's a word, professional reviewer
That's
of
right.
such myself, it is stinky. Okay, it's Dumb and Dumber 2 that came out in 2014. This is the one that had Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. Now, have you ever seen Dumb and Dumber?
I think I have, but I not in a long time. Like,
Okay, so I saw Dumb and Dumber in theaters and I thought it was kind of funny. I thought it was okay. I thought it was humorous. And then I didn't want to see the prequel because Jim Carrey wasn't in it. And I thought, why? It doesn't even seem, it just seems like a money grab when they're doing that.
yeah.
And then this sequel came out, and I didn't want to see it because one, I had rewatched Dumb and Dumber a couple of months prior, and I didn't feel for me it held didn't held up it didn't hold up well. I thought it was actually really irritating in parts. And I don't want you to think that I'm this hoity toity movie watcher. There's crap I can sit through over and over again, but for some reason it didn't hold up to me. So I really didn't want to go see this.
Yeah.
So when I went with my friend, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to see, and he really wanted to see this sequel on opening night.
Oh.
So I agreed to it because I love this man dearly. So we went, and my God, was it horrible. Not only did I have to pay full Opening night prices. Thank God it wasn't in 3D, or I'd have to even pay even more.
Oh
I'm
god.
talking to you, Lego 2 movie. You're not on. You're just not on this list because I actually didn't mind some of the music in it, but I should put it on the list. Honorable mention: Lego Movie 2. Anyhow, back to Dumb and Dumber 2. So we went into the theater. I had to stand in a crazy line with all these people who were hyped for it. And I swear nobody was really having a good time with this movie. The laughter in the theater seemed forced. It
Oh.
was almost embarrassing seeing that these two characters hadn't really evolved much from the first movie. That's my problem with comedy movies. It makes me nervous when so much time has passed because first of all, I will say that some comedies I think for me are the hardest ones to bring about.
Mhm.
And that's just because I think comedy is like lightning in a bottle, and to recapture it, you have to have elements of the original. And that already takes away. Now, with action films, you can do that because you can play with the story, you can play with stuff. But with the comedy movies, you're expecting something similar to the first, but you're going in now, and some can do it, but I think it's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber 2, I felt failed on so many levels. I felt bad being in there. I felt bad for the actors. I don't think the movie did very well, and I just remember the audience. It was just like they're laughing, like you can tell genuine laughter, and then you can tell absolute like just we're laughing at nostalgia's sake.
Mm.
We want to find this funnier than it was. But the fact that this one doesn't even get talked about anymore, where I still hear people talking about Dumb and Dumber all the time,
Yeah.
even the prequel I get talked about more because it's considered one of the worst sequels. But I really think we need to add Dumb and Dumber 2 to this equation because it just left me feeling cold. And yeah, in its defense, I will say, with my pencil shaking, that I did not want to see it, so I wasn't in the right state of mind. But I don't hear other people raving about this movie, so I'm going to keep to it. Speaking of comedies that don't work very well, I'm going to bring up this one, but I'm not going to talk a lot about it. It was here's a simple formula for a first movie that should have been easy to translate, and they couldn't do it. And that's the Cannonball Run.
Oh.
Now I think I just showed you the
Yeah.
first.
Just
Okay, and you saw not highbrow humor
no.
in the least,
That was fun.
and it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily hold up well, but it still makes you giggle if you were grown up in that era. Which, again, like this one, I thought it held up better than Dumb and Dumber, but it's probably not as good a movie. But Cannonball Run is fun. So the Cannonball Run is basically a race
Yeah.
that just goes from one city to another, and they have to break rules and stuff like that. It's Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, and an all-star cast.
Yes.
Well, they brought an all-star cast back, and Burt Reynolds is there, and Dom DeLuise, but this movie couldn't even find its own formula. And this movie is just bad jokes, sexual innuendo, and car crashes. And they could not make it happen.
Oh.
They could have probably done Cannonball Runs the length of the Police Academy movies. And this one killed the whole franchise because people knew it was bad.
Yeah.
And, as I said, this isn't highbrow Shakespeare here. So, Cannonball Run 2, just a mess. You feel sorry for everybody who's in it because everybody looks like they're having a good time. If only the audience did. And I don't think anyone in the audience did. It's just bad.
Yeah.
I did like the Menudo song, Cannonball, but
Oh well, there we go.
I can admit that's really god awful too. And Bert, we're looking at you too. I didn't put it on this list only because I think I wiped it from my memory. Smokey and the Bandit 2, absolutely horrible. Stopped me from seeing any, but you weren't even in the third one. So you even stopped with this one. And, there's a difference between trying to transport beer across state lines and I believe it was elephants. Okay, I want to say it's elephants. If it's not elephants, yell at me in the comments section, especially if you're a fan. Again, I think they were all forced to do this because of contractual things. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Where do I want to go next? I got some big heavy hitters to talk about, but I don't know if I want to hit with them just yet. Okay, let's do another horror movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do one of the obvious ones because if you look at any YouTube listing or read any article about worst sequels of all time, you are going to see this one. Jaws the Revenge. Um, the love story that just couldn't work. Now, this is some people have put Jaws 2, but I've talked on a podcast about my love of Jaws 2. It will be a future misunderstood movie this summer because I think it's very misunderstood. I actually think it's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And the third one is not great, but I like to rewatch it every couple of years because it makes me laugh and
Okay.
entertains me. Now, I actually put off watching Jaws the Revenge until 2 years ago, I think, and I finally picked it up for dirt cheap. And it is as bad as everybody says. And you can tell by the font they use in the movie.
The font. Okay.
The font. Yeah, because Jaws has some great fonts on their movie posters and their thing. And even in the trailers, they have great fonts. And when you watch this one, it looks like they're starting a Hallmark Christmas movie. It's like got this Jaws the Revenge. And you're like, what are they thinking? You can't even get the font right? What do I got high hopes? So anyhow, if you're not up on your Jaws lore, Mrs. Brody is back for this one because that's the only name actor from the first movies they could get back. Because well, Robert Shaw died.
Yeah.
Not only in the first movie, but in real life. I think Roy Scheider was still alive, but he came back for Jaws too, so he earned his
Yes.
paychecks. And Richard Dreyfuss wasn't coming back for this crap. Um, the paycheck must not have been great, but we did get Michael Caine in this, and that's good. And he's never seen Jaws. He won the Best Supporting Actor award for Hannah and her sisters and couldn't make it because they were filming Jaws.
Oh.
I forgot where they're filming it. I didn't want to look it up. I think it's like Barbados or something like that. Anyhow, to he didn't get to pick up his Oscar because he was filming, but he's never seen the movie. He knows it's terrible, but he got a paycheck so big he could basically buy most of a house he was looking at. So when he thinks of Jaws the Revenge, he thinks of his beautiful home he bought. So he has no regrets of this movie, even, and he wound up winning another Oscar later. So he showed up for that one.
That's good.
But what an embarrassment! I don't think they mentioned what movie he was filming because I think
Probably not.
yeah, they probably take the Oscar away from him. Who was second? Who was second that year? What's you know? I think that should happen sometime. Anyhow, Jaws the Revenge is as bad as you think it would be. Okay, so Mrs. Brody, it's implied that by now Roy Scheider's character, and this I'd say spoiler, but you should be thanking me because I'm gonna give you the Reader's Digest version here. So they give him like they imply he has died.
Yes.
Now they say it was a heart attack, but I think he just got so fucked up with sharks that he basically eventually died of a heart attack.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the third one, we follow his sons, both of them. The Brodies are, and the Jaws 3D, not a great film, but has an interesting premise and
Okay.
has some likable, laughable moments in it. Now, Jaws the Revenge, she decides at the very beginning of the movie, they kill off one of her sons by a shark.
Wow.
And so she decides that she is going to finally move from Amity.
Yes.
Finally move. Now, your husband has almost been killed by a shark. Your sons have been almost killed by sharks in a couple of the movies as well.
Mhm.
So you think you'd move to Arizona by the desert, but no, she moves to a place with water
You think you'd at least
because,
move inland a little bit, like an hour
yeah,
away
no,
from the water.
no, she's close to water again. And what happens this time around is the shark follows her. Now, I have to remind people that I think if you asked some people on the street, some people would actually think that Jaws is the name of the shark. And I was just talking to Mike about this because I actually have a giant Jaws poster my on my wall.
Yes.
And Jaws is right there, right there. He makes an appearance. Ah! Anyhow, anyhow, Jaws is not the name of the shark. The shark is just a shark. They don't name him. He was named in the production as Bruce because he was screwing up, and Spielberg decided to name him after his lawyer.
Yeah.
So basically, but so Jaws 2 comes around. There is nothing that necessarily implies that that is a relative of the first shark.
No, it's just a shark.
But by the third shark, and again, this is not in Amityville now. It takes place in Sea World,
Oh.
which wherever that is, that's like California or Malibu. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know my tropical places. I live in Hamilton. But anyhow, this shark has a thing for Brodies.
Maybe they taste good.
Okay? And it doesn't make any sense because there's nothing that says there's a lineage of these sharks. So the fact that this shark would follow her is crazy.
Yes.
But what makes it even more crazy is it's very clear. And the first time it happens in this movie, you want to write it off as I didn't just see that.
Okay.
And then you realize she's got a psychic link to this shark. What makes this movie more irritating is they tried to mix this romance in with her and Michael Caine. And apparently, Lorraine Gary, who came back for the sequel, said that was pretty much how they got her back. The thought of like working with Michael Caine, she
Oh.
had a crush on him. And so they try to fit this in. They're dealing with their son's death. The other son is in this as well,
Yeah.
played by Lance Guest. The kid has changed every time in a movie. And they're dealing with all this stuff, but the shark has a psychic link. Now, I've heard that in the book adaptation, they explain it the best they can, but it's not done in the movie. And I don't even think it would be that great a
No.
story, but I think I'd like to see that movie made because apparently in the adaptation they make it sound like there is a connection to the Brodies and that maybe back in the Moby Dick days that a sea captain named Brody may have took down a shark
I
and
want
that
to
there
see
is
that.
definite
Prequels to Jaws.
yeah, and then there's a hint that it could be voodoo that's causing these sharks to be going after the Brodies. I don't know who's against the Brodies. Is Richard Dreyfuss somewhere? I've never read the adaptation. I have no interest. Heather's going to run out and order
No.
it now.
It's more fun to just hear about this.
Yeah, and not to mention, it's got one of the worst death scenes because they always have to try to make it different. And this one, they edited twice because they weren't certain about one character dying.
Okay.
So in the original film, when they showed it to test audiences, they didn't like this one character died, and then he got saved in the second cut.
Oh.
But they've edited it so many times that it depends if you see it on video or if you've seen it on TV. You may see a different ending to this. But basically, to save you time, it gets poked by the front of the ship and explodes.
Why? Why?
it's not really explained why. There is some little storyline that gives you a reason why it could, but there
Okay.
is nothing to say why it would cause such a cinematic explosion that would only necessarily kill the shark and not kill any of the people on the boat because of how
Uh,
big this is. But yeah, we've seen Jaws die through gunshot explosions. We've seen electrocution. We've seen a little bit of everything, but yeah. The only plus I'd give is there's actually one or two sequences that are actually pretty good with the shark, but not that many to
yeah.
warrant seeing this movie. It's really bad. And I knew I'd wind up talking a lot about it. So we're going to move on. We're going to move on to one of my favorite topics, Superman. And some of you are thinking I'm going right to Superman 3, but that's tolerable in my eyes. It's not great. I'm talking about Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. This one I'm not going to talk a lot about. It is horrific. Another company got the rights to do Superman, and they did it on the cheap. John Cusack, I believe. I think I got the right name. No, John Cryer is in this movie when he was very young, probably playing Jimmy Olsen, but I maybe I'm trying to break that from my memory. But Christopher Reeve was said that told John Cryer this movie is going to be horrible while they were filming it. He knew it was going to be so bad. See, a lot of people, young people, if they watch Superman and Superman 2, they're probably going to think those are very slow moving movies. But what you got to understand is when we were kids, those were the only movies we saw.
Yes.
We didn't have superhero movies every month like we get now.
Mhm.
So they were amazing to us. When it says you won't believe a man can fly, we're watching it. You probably watch it now and show, a younger generation, they'll laugh their asses off. But this was big news. And Superman 2 was awesome too.
Mhm.
The third one, not so great, but it had some great moments in it. So I left that one alone. And honestly, the quest for peace is ridiculous. They make up this. I can't even remember the hero's name. I think I'm blocking it out, but the villain's name. Sorry.
Mhm.
He's made from Lex Luthor puts them together from I want to say energy or pieces of the sun. It's really ridiculous, and all the rules that he has are awful. The fighting sequences are awful. They use the same flying sequences over and over again. Like you can literally tell it's the same shot of Christopher Reeve because they're saving money.
Mhm.
I think they even use something from one of the old movies. They don't even try to film a new ending or anything like that. It's just horrible. And it runs only about 90 minutes. All the other ones were close to 2 hours or over 2 hours.
Mhm.
And this one, they just got it done, got it into the theaters, and people did not fall for it one
Yeah.
bit. So, done talking about that. Let's talk a little bit about Terminator. Now, I have not disliked any of the Terminators. I probably don't love the ones you love as much as you do. But I have not had a problem with Rise of the Machines. I did not have a problem with Salvation. And I am one of the few, and I know I'm in the few, so get your comments ready, but be nice. I did not even hate Terminator Genesis. But the latest one, Dark Fate, I thought was absolutely horrible. Not only the movie, but how they handled everything about this movie. Like before this movie came out, they basically told people that if you are a toxic male, you will not like this movie because it has strong female characters. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. Don't do that because the Terminator series, to me, is about Linda Hamilton's
Yeah.
character, Sarah Connors, and her son, John Connors.
Yeah.
This is one of the action things right up there with the aliens that has a strong female bond.
Yeah.
all the people who've been to see the Terminator movies obviously do not have problems with this because they are going to see all these movies.
Yeah.
The people that, you know, sure, she wasn't in a couple of the movies, but she's represented in some of them, and in others, she still is talked about. She's still an important heritage. But the fact to go out, and it wasn't just the director, we're talking some of the actors did. Then when we go to see this movie, the first thing they do is they destroy any part of the original movie. And see, now Terminator, the original, is my favorite in the series, but other people mostly agree that the second one was the best one. So they deliberately go out of their way to destroy it from the second movie. And this, how is this not going to leave you in a bad space?
Yeah.
Now, I thought some of the new characters were actually, the actors and actresses were really good. I thought the Terminator story was absolutely stupid. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was kind of embarrassing in this one. Um, I don't like, I understand you need a Terminator in these movies, but I think there should be different Terminators in this. I know it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle, but for me, the Terminator is John Connor and Sarah Connor.
Mhm.
And if you're going to get rid of those characters, the Terminator shouldn't always be your lead. I actually like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Genesis. I thought he was fun, interesting, but yeah, it's just Dark Fate. I'm going to put as one of the worst sequels just because I just did not like it. So there you go. I said it. Yeah, I've got a list here. I'm going to talk about another big one here, and I'm only going to talk a little bit about it because I actually think it's funny, and it's
Okay.
not supposed to be. It's Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. I certainly hope. I'm going to actually look that up quick because I'm hoping I got the right one here because this should be the second in the series.
Okay.
Now, have you seen any of the?
I've only seen the first one, and I liked the first Transformers. I just never saw any of the other ones. Apparently,
Yeah,
they're
the
quite good.
first one. Yeah, okay, so that it is. It's the second one. I'm not up on my Transformers, so give me a break. Basically, what I had problems with this movie is, first of all, the first Transformers I only went to see because I'm a Shia LaBeouf fan. I went to see it and I was pleasantly surprised. I liked the story between Shia's character Sam and Bumblebee. I liked all the Transformers. I liked the visuals. I liked the comedy in it. I liked everything in it. It won me over as not being a Transformers fan. I know I'm Mr. Mondo Nostalgia, but Transformers was never something I got into. I was watching G.I. Joe and Gem and stuff like that. I never really got into the Transformers. So this was my kind of gateway drug. This could have been a gateway drug. Now, I did see, this didn't stop me from seeing any more. It eventually did, but that was because Shia left the series. And with all due respect to Mark Wahlberg, I do like him, but he's not enough to get me in theaters as much as Shia does. I'm a Scientologist. What can you say? Anyhow, I went to this movie expecting a fun movie, and what Michael Bay did, in fact, I think this movie should be taught on how not to make a sequel because he did what you're supposed to do for a sequel and just like Michael Bay does, ramps it up to 11. I think in this case it was up to 20. So he took everything we liked about the first movie and increased it to annoying levels.
Oh.
There were more explosions. Sam's parents were hilarious, so we're going to make them even more hilarious and have them like, the mother's going to eat hash brownies and stuff when she's at college. The dog was pretty funny, so we're going to have the dog, screw another dog, like pump the dog for a comedy's sake. Megan Fox is gorgeous, so we're going to just do these ridiculous shots of her, doing things on a motorcycle that nobody would sit to like. detail a motorcycle that way, but we get a great shot of her ass and her body. So everything is slow motion over the top, you know. There's even more comedy in it. There's like robots with horribly racist accents in it, you know.
Really?
I don't even want to talk about it. It's so racist. But the reason I'm almost put this not on my list is because I actually will rewatch this and watch funny scenes.
Oh,
The other thing that I find irritating about this movie is that it's basically action, action, slow down for plot exposition, because we've met a new character, so we have to get them into the loop. Then action, action, more exposition to the point where there's one really long one that is so boring. And then we get the action packed thing that's got so much explosions and slow motion, your head's spinning. And I did wind up going to see the third one, which I thought was actually a little better. They slowed things down a lot more and didn't, necessarily like good. If they upped the intensity of everything in this next one, I would have that would have been the end of me. But I think they were okay. I think their biggest misstep is letting Megan Fox go. Yeah, I know. Comparing Michael Bay to Hitler probably will get you in trouble.
yeah.
But the truth of the matter is she wound up being on one of his produced movies, the Teenage Ninja Turtles. So the fact that he was okay to have her there and not in this one,
Hmm.
as much as I love Shia LaBeouf, the thought that he could score two incredibly gorgeous babes like that, I don't buy. But anyhow, yeah. So yeah, I it is a bad sequel. So I added it here. It didn't stop me. It was Shia leaving that stopped me eventually because I thought the third one was good, but it's not as hated because I will watch some of the scenes because they make me laugh
Okay.
because it's just bug nuts. We'll go with bug nuts. I won't talk a lot about this one, only because of the fact that not many people even probably remember it. Uh, One of my favorite coming of age movies is a beautiful movie called My Girl. And I love this movie so much. Anna Klumsky was just a little girl. Macaulay Culkin was in it. It was a comedy drama, basically. Did you ever see My Girl?
I did. I saw it once.
Yeah. It's a wonderful film about a young girl who deals with life and love and death. Her father, Dan Aykroyd, runs a funeral home
Mhm.
where they literally, in her home, they get bodies ready for for funerals and stuff. And so she's got this warped and wonderful perception. I think Anna Klumsky's performance in there, I certainly hope I'm getting that name right, is probably one of the best child acting I've ever seen in my life. Up there, definitely. I've seen a lot, but that's a future one. Great action, great children performances, and she's wonderful. I think she's gone on to a couple things, but I think she kind of sort of disappeared. But when they did My Girl 2, I was so excited to see what happened. Now, I won't give away the movie because this is one of the ones that you might not have seen or remembered
Mhm.
for the people watching. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there is some elements missing from the first and the second that can't be helped.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. But what I didn't like is the second one left me so disappointed. I was anxious. They turned it into like this mystery. Um, in the first movie, they talk a lot about how the daughter is been shaped by the loss of her mother.
Okay.
And in the second one, she goes on a journey to find her mother. And the storyline just is so unrealistic. And it really saddened me so much that I had to put it on this list.
Mhm.
And I'm okay with that. Oh, where do I go to next?
Mhm.
I'm going to go to this one. We have about three more to talk about, believe it or not. I might have missed one. I don't know. I'm going to talk about this one because this is probably not only is this disappointing to me, but this is almost a slap in the face to me. And I know you're going to agree with me because unless you've rewatched it and didn't tell me, Frozen 2.
Oh, yes.
Um, I did not want a Frozen sequel. When Frozen came out, I didn't want to go see it. I didn't think it looked good at all. And I went with a lady who wanted to see it, and I thought, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And I came out as it being probably my favorite animated movie. And up to that point, Little Mermaid was up there. I can get away with it because Little Mermaid is animated and this one is like drawn,
Yeah.
where this one is computer animated. So Frozen is not only a surprise to me, I loved the story, I loved the relationships, I loved that they had plot twists in this that Disney made me fall for. Like I don't like to. I fall for a lot of plot twists that I didn't see coming, but not in Disney movies, not like the animated movies. You can see them a mile away, and I have to say that I got so engrossed in this movie that I literally fell for them.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a great movie to go in not knowing, because it is so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of it is wonderful. And I'm glad it was a phenomenon. I'm glad it did so well.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew a sequel was inevitable. And it saddened me because even I was worried about like Olaf being irritating in the first one, and he wasn't. I actually really liked him. I liked all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So when the sequel came, I was I didn't want it. And when I was starting to see the trailers, I was already like, oh, I don't know. But I gave my best and I decided to go opening weekend because I felt I didn't want to see the first one and they won me over. And it was sad that I was almost insulted by this movie. And I'm glad the kids out there seem to like it. And I know some adults that like it. I know your parents like it, or your mom
I
at
think
least.
so, yeah.
Yeah. I did not like the music.
No.
The first one, there was so many songs. Like people always talk about "Let It Go." I remember singing that damn Bill of Frickin' Snowman song. Not that I wanted to, but all the songs were in my head, and the visuals around the songs.
Yeah.
This one, even Into the Unknown, which was supposed to be the next "Let It Go," seemed
Mm-hmm.
to fizzle for me real fast. Let It Go, it still comes on and I'm doing the ice things with my
Oh,
hands and
yeah.
stuff. Into the Unknown, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that Frozen 2 song. I like it's just not that interesting for me. And
Mm.
what bothered me was it takes place a couple of years after the first one, I believe, and none of the characters seem to have grown. They're
No.
right back exactly where they were. And it's like, how come none of them have grown from this point?
Yeah.
And like there's just this spiritual mystery that they try to build you up with that is so obvious that you're like, is there gonna be a plot twist? Because to me there's only one really way they can go, and they keep letting you know there's gonna be a big plot twist, and then it's exactly what you thought of at the beginning, and it's like a letdown. It's like getting on your bike and then realizing you have flat tires. Like I found Olaf was irritating the hell out of me, and I knew what to expect this time around. I hated that some of the characters I loved had taken secondary positions and didn't even know what they were doing. The trust between the two sisters just wasn't there because, oh, I got to do this on my own. And it's just like, you're right back. Anna's just as naive as she was.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to see the characters again, but Frozen 2. Now, I actually do want to rewatch this again, but I just was so off put by it that I've seen chances to buy it and I haven't because I just hated the feeling I had coming out of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just was like a slap in my face because I felt that there was a lot of pandering to like the spirituality side of it. Like
Hmm.
I felt it was like written not by writers, but by this is what we need in the movie. We need like spirituality. We need strong females, you know? And I think when you just write a story with them and they evolve and become that, that's fine. But
Yeah.
when you start trying to shoehorn things like this in, I don't think it works that well.
Hmm.
So I had to add Frozen 2 on this list because one of the biggest disappointments of my life. And I don't think I'd go see a Frozen 3. And there probably will be because there was one. I was hoping this was going to be a case like the Toy Story movies. Now, I haven't seen the fourth one, but I never wanted sequels for these. But they kept getting better, like the second one and then the third one. I'll definitely have them on my list of movies I don't want a sequel for, but I'm glad I got one. Look for that soon. And but Frozen 2 is definitely not in that realm.
Hmm.
Two more to talk about, and I don't want to take too much more time, but I hope you're enjoying this.
I
And
am.
don't forget to comment. And don't forget to subscribe and do all that stuff because we got a lot of movie talk and other stuff coming on. And look around Mondo Nostalgia. I'm doing a plug right now before I get into my next two. I know one, I'm going to try to keep it brief, but I know I'm saving it to the very end because it actually almost didn't make my list, but I had to put it on there.
Okay.
But I'm going to talk about Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2 first.
Oh,
Now, I know you saw this.
yes. I don't
Yeah,
remember any of it, but I saw it.
yeah. I am one of the few people that actually, well, no, not one of the few.
Yeah.
Uh, Blair Witch Project is now kind of a polarizing movie. Some people don't think it's scary, other people do. I think it is scary. I remember being in that theater watching this found footage, something we really hadn't seen much of because it was the start of the found footage. And I remember being so intrigued by it. In fact, I remember leaning in my seat thinking, okay, I'm just seeing a bunch of trees. I swear I see a face or a body. I am going to jump 3 rows in front of me. I was on the edge of my seat and I had nightmares. I had nightmares that night because I saw images. I won't say what I saw because
Yeah.
I don't want to give it up if you haven't seen it yet.
Hmm.
But in my eyes, there is no trilogy or sequels to the Blair Witch. Now, they have made two, and I will touch upon the second one a little bit because
Okay.
they actually almost won me over and then they did something stupid. But yeah, Blair. They did a one called I can't even remember the name. It was like Blair Witch. It was a couple of years ago,
Okay.
and they used a lot of the new modern technology that we have now, like
Okay.
cell phones and GPSs.
Okay.
GPS is that the right letters?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, lots of stuff like that, video cams, everything. And I thought it was actually pretty clever. And I thought, oh, finally, Blair Witch is going to get a sequel. And then they did something stupid that I can't forgive it. It involved a drone, and I thought it was so dumb.
Oh, okay.
I gave it some because it was something. They actually kind of connected it more to the original movie because I think it was the little brother of the girl Heather in the movie.
Okay.
And he decides to go out and try to find evidence of what happened to his sister going missing.
Right.
And yeah, and it started off good and then just lost me at this one thing that it. But that's not what I'm talking about
No.
because that, as I said, the beginning of that is actually pretty good. Um, Book of Shadows was horrible. First of all, they decided we can't just put another found footage, and that was their first mistake
Yes.
because this is like trying to do a sequel and just getting rid of everything.
Yeah.
And to me, there's actually only a little couple of things that connect this movie, but basically the name.
Yeah.
Um, it's a horrible movie about a bunch of kids who go and decide to party in the location where this happened, and they had tried to build this story That's not found footage. It's just a stereotypical horror film that could have been named anything, but
Hmm.
they knew slapping Blair Witch on it would get more people in theaters because Blair Witch was a surprise hit movie.
Yeah.
So they casted a whole bunch of unknowns at the time. I think they were unknowns. They were unknown to me, and just made a freaking movie where witches are dancing naked, if I recall,
I
weird
don't remember
alcohol and
it.
drug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you saw this movie, right?
Yeah. I
How?
really don't remember it. I completely blocked it out of my mind, I guess.
Yeah, it was just, yeah, horrible.
Yeah.
And after having such a great film, it
Yeah.
was just like, I don't want this connected to a horror film.
Hmm.
Now, now there are a lot of sequels I haven't talked about, and as I said, some of them I liked, and some of them were just on the cusp. Some are also movies that I was just like, I just don't feel like talking about them. Like Mission Impossible 2. I think that's a horrible sequel, but I do want to rewatch it, but I think I know I'll be wrong. It's terrible in the laughable ways, but it might be laughable enough to watch it and get a good laugh.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't actually put that on the list, but yeah, I guess we'll put it as a honorary mention. But let's get to the Zing Daddy. And I wasn't even going to talk about this movie, but then I realized it is a sequel, so I have every right.
Yeah.
But the question is, do I think it's one of the worst sequels? And for the longest time, I was like, well, the more I think about this movie, the less I like in this movie. So we're going to wrap this up with Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Um, because how Frozen felt like a slap in my face, this one felt like a full on punch to the face with me losing teeth. Um, I I did not expect the train wreck this movie was.
Yeah.
And I have come to terms with it. It's actually sad because I really liked The Force Awakens.
Hmm.
I really thought it was a strong sequel. I liked a lot of the new characters. I liked pretty much all of it. I think it was, if not my favorite film of that year, right up there.
Hmm.
Then Last Jedi came, and it was I literally don't even know how I reacted in the theater. I know I was with a group of people where only one person liked it, and everybody else just was so upset
We were
and
all
visibly
shocked.
moved. Pardon?
We were all just in shock, I think.
Yeah. We almost didn't know what we saw because it was so not Star Wars.
Hmm.
And going into this, I had heard so much critical stuff about how this was up there as one of the best, which I noticed that a lot of people who still even like it have kind of take their enamoration down a bit. They still like it, but they just don't want to talk about it.
Hmm.
And this literally polarized the Star Wars fandom to
Hmm.
the point where I think it almost broke it. I did enjoy Rise of the Skywalker, but I felt they spent way too much time just having to retcon what was in the second one.
Yeah.
And I liked that when it came out, they said, well, we're not going to do that. We're just going to take the story. And the whole movie is a retcon.
Yeah.
That I almost felt that they had to come up with ridiculousness to keep it going. But I did enjoy it because it kind of like patted me on the head and said, "See, we fixed it." Even though when I think of the sequel movies now, I just look at them like,
Yeah.
now I don't necessarily blame Ryan Johnson as much as other fans do. I do give him credit for not really understanding Star Wars,
Hmm.
but I blame Kathleen Kennedy, who did not have a clear vision for all three of the movies.
Yeah.
I Yeah, I talk a lot about this movie and I've always tried to defend it as best I can. But as years go on, I just have no way of defending this movie. It's in my collection because I'm a completist. I did go rewatch it. I rewatched it a couple of days later, hoping to go into it with fresh eyes, now I'm not going to be shocked because I know what's going to happen, and I'm hoping I'll find something good in it. And I came out just being even more disappointed. Like, I was heartbroken.
Mhm.
Now, it didn't ruin, I wasn't like anybody like, oh, it ruined the original trilogy, you know. I like that it kind of made the prequels more loved. Uh, I actually like the prequels,
Yeah.
but other people don't. And it was fun to see other people saying, well, at least the prequels had an idea what they're going to do, all three. They didn't have a basis, and I can't believe that. So here, JJ set us up with a pretty nice
Mhm.
follow up to the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, I'm going to, and I don't feel bad that JJ came in and retconned a lot of things because I felt that in many ways, Ryan Johnson just retconned a lot of the stuff that JJ put in there.
Yeah.
And now when I look at the whole series, I can't help but look at how many mistakes were made. My biggest was that here they had an opportunity to bring Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher all together. We didn't even get to see Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill in a sequence together.
No.
Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker didn't even get to mourn Han Solo because he was too busy being, a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
He was just, I hate life. This is, and he doesn't even get a scene. Even Mark Hamill said, they had to keep a scene where I drank milk from the teat of some creature, but I didn't get a scene where I mourned my
Yeah.
best friend.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit of Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher together, but then we lost Carrie Fisher. So to me, it was sad because we had the original three. And
Mhm.
I almost think they should have concentrated more on the original three with the new characters
Yeah.
as side characters. Instead, they put them in the front, which worked fine for The Force Awakens, but they were almost mishandled. I think I do blame Ryan Johnson, though, for how he handled Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
This was a character that was one of my heroes in the movies. And
Mhm.
I understand showing heroes feeling defeated and feeling, but if you're not going to take that story anywhere and you have to have another director come in and fix that story because so many people were brokenhearted,
Mhm.
to the point where even Disney has now kind of not, they don't even talk about Poe and Ray and Kylo as much anymore. They released, vintage figures recently. And in the first phase, they actually literally had a Jar Jar Binks toy, but
Oh.
there was nothing from the new trilogy.
Oh.
And I have to add Star Wars The Last Jedi as one of the worst sequels because, I was obsessed when this happened. I watched so many people talk about how disappointed they were, and I even watched people who loved the movie. And I found that the people who were disappointed with the movie could verify why they were disappointed. But
Mhm.
I couldn't find the people that liked the movie to verify exactly why they liked the movie.
Yeah.
And most of them admitted that they still had some problems with the movie.
Mhm.
The humor. Like, I could go, and I've done a full podcast about it.
Yeah.
So, you can go check that out in my audio podcasts.
Mhm.
But there was so much the humor, just the way they seemed like they didn't know characters. Even characters that were just introduced in the first movie were put on the sidelines. And it was just, I don't know what was going on half the time because I've tried to rewatch it and I just lose a little bit more each time. And and that's about it. And Court is taking calls.
Apparently.
Is that Ryan Johnson calling you now? Never speak of Star Wars again.
I'll mute this.
All right, she's taking calls. So yeah, so this I had to add into my list, and we
That was
left it there. So yeah, do you have any feelings you want to add to that, or?
I have two honorable mentions I'll mention because I know that you
Okay.
also don't like them. Jurassic Park 2.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna add that, but I was being nice. But yeah, I do not like Jurassic Park 2.
Yeah,
I actually think Steven Spielberg directed Jurassic Park 2.
yeah.
And I oh my head exploded thinking about it. Yeah, Steven Spielberg directed the second Jurassic Park, and he has said that he is not a fan of Jaws 2. He did not direct that, but I actually think Jaws 2 is way better a film.
Yes.
I know a certain man named Damien would not agree with me
He
here. I
doesn't
think
like
it was
Jaws much, so
I think this movie was a travesty. Some of the mistakes he made. Sorry, I didn't mean to step all over your words.
no, that's okay. No.
I just think they dealt with them. They had Ian Malcolm have a daughter in
Yeah,
this movie, which I had no problem with.
of course.
But when I found out that in the original trilogy, like this, she's the only one to actually kill a dinosaur with her own hands or feet. Yeah, there's just too much embarrassment.
Yeah.
The scene with the two Tyrannosauruses should have been awesome. There was an awesome part in it, but overall, I felt it was cheap.
Hmm.
It felt like just two heads knocking the trailer. Yeah, and then just
The movie
setting up
The
for such.
Mainland was awful.
Yeah, they set up this beautiful mainland story and gave us like 20 minutes in it that felt so cheated out of.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and I don't even know. I think I was cheated right at the beginning because you'd think the sequel would be easy. They'd go back and take care of the dinosaurs on that island, but no, we're going to talk about a second island.
Yeah.
So,
It's like they couldn't get rights to the first movie somehow.
no, I agree. This should have been on my list, so thank you for reminding
No
me.
problem.
I don't know why I left it off. I have rewatched it recently, and I
Yeah.
still shake my head at. I remember a scene in the boat where the Tyrannosaurus gets out of, and
Yeah.
there's a very small little place where they drive the boat, and there's a hand on the steering wheel. And it's like there is no visible evidence that that giant Tyrannosaurus Rex could have got his head into that room, but
No,
somehow he ate that guy,
but not the hand.
but not the hand. And there's
Had a really good
no
grip on that wheel.
there is no sequence. And as much as I love Jeff Goldblum,
Yeah.
probably the last character you need for a sequel. The Alan character
Yeah.
made more sense. The kids would have made more sense.
Mhm.
But, Jeff Goldblum was big at the time,
Yeah.
still is, and much loved. And it was nice to see him in it. But yeah. And I actually like the third one. I actually like the
Yeah,
third
I
one.
like the third one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Sam Neill recently said he is a fan of the third one.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Cool.
he actually said he thought his acting was better in the third one, which nobody's going to agree with on that. I won't even agree with any of that. Okay, your other one?
My other one is an almost great movie, and then the last like 10 minutes screw it up. You probably know which one that is. The Teen Beach Movie 2.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was sticking with theater movies, but that is technically a
Yeah.
movie, and yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
now you got to have me confess that I'm a fan of the first Teen Beach movie.
But it's a fantastic movie. The first.
Luther Griggs somewhere is going because I know he just watched it and really enjoyed it.
Oh,
He actually asked me, "Have you seen Teen Beach Movie?" And I go, "Yeah,
that's a great movie.
yes."
And the
And
second
the
one is
second one was almost
almost.
good too.
Yes. They just screwed it up so much at
Yeah,
the end that I can't even watch the parts that are good.
yeah. I actually gave away my copy of the second one
I
because
would
I
give away
bought
my
it.
copy, but it's technically Aaron's and not mine. So
Yeah, I
sorry.
bought it and I got rid of it, and I'm sad because there's some good songs in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Can't
some good
watch it. Yeah.
stories, and some of you are like going, "Are you kidding me? They're talking about Teen Beach Movie," but it's actually a pretty fun movie.
It is.
And if you're looking for something for your kids,
Mhm.
they'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um, Younger kids, maybe I think the boys might enjoy it too. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of fun in it. But the second one is almost perfect. Well, no, not perfect, but
No,
it's almost.
it's good
They do the
till.
most horrendous thing, and I'm not gonna. I should ruin it for people, but I'm not going to.
Yeah,
They do one of the most atrocious. Thank you for bringing this up.
yeah,
I think I forget it because it's almost good.
yes,
They do one of the most horrific things ever to the main characters that I could not believe.
yeah,
And I remember after watching that movie, I was heartbroken.
yeah,
And I actually looked to see what people watching Disney were thinking about it. Like,
hmm,
I couldn't think that just the people who I showed it to, like Corda and Mike, and basically what could, how bad did other people respond as badly as we
yeah,
did. And I remember reading stuff that mothers and parents were writing the Disney Channel saying that what they did actually devastated their kids.
yeah,
Parents had to explain what happened.
hmm,
Their intentions were honorable, but they pulled it off in such a bad way.
yeah,
What they tried to do, um, this won't ruin the movie really because I won't go into plots, but what they tried to do was they tried to make a movie. Wanted to make a statement that was very, I don't want to use the term woke, but they wanted to show an empowering side
yes,
to this movie.
yes,
Now, in my opinion, they had already done that in the first movie,
yeah,
but they decided they wanted to take it a step further. But what they managed to do was they basically kind of destroyed the whole essence of the series.
yes,
This probably uh, might even interest you to see how they did it.
yeah,
But I read that mothers had to talk to their kids
hmm,
to explain what happened
yeah,
because the producers were probably pretty proud of themselves, thinking, "Oh, we've got a statement for the kids,"
yeah,
and it actually broke a lot of kids' hearts. So it wasn't just us.
yeah,
Um, the parents just said that their kids were very upset.
hmm,
They actually had to explain it to try to get them to understand what they were going for.
yeah.
And I think even though you know what they're going for, it's still
It's not right.
it's still not right to basically destroy your whole essence of the
Mhm,
series. Now, they did two sequels to High School Musical, they did
yeah,
some short, they've done The Descendants, a lot of sequels,
yeah,
but Teen Beach Movie did not get a sequel.
hmm,
And I wondered if that had a lot to do with. Now, I'll admit, even if they nailed the landing of the final movie, I can't believe I'm talking so intense about this, but yeah, it's a great one that you brought up.
yeah,
But the truth of the matter is that I just think that I don't think like there would have been enough material even if they landed the ending for a third
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
I think they'd be really pushing it because there is a concept in the Teen Beach movie, believe it or
yes,
not. It's a pretty high concept in a
yeah,
low concept way.
yeah,
But by the second one, there's only one way you can really go. But the third way would have been really out there. But to actually assassinate what you had already created in two
yes,
movies, I absolutely, this is one of the cases that kind of eliminates the
yeah,
first movie. Kind of like what I felt with Terminator 2. I
yeah,
enjoyed Terminator 2, but my problems with it is that if Terminator 2 finishes the way it does, it kind of eliminates the first movie, and I don't want to get rid of my favorite movie in the series.
right,
So that is my biggest problem with Terminator 2.
hmm,
But Teen Beach Movie goes back and just kind of wipes everything clean
yeah.
slate, and that
Roy's. everything in the first movie in the last like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Only to get their statements across. And this is a problem I've been having a lot with some of Pixar and Disney's movies as of late.
mhm,
It seems that, Pixar is incredible for writing storylines with great sentiments and emotions, but I think they've been getting a little too in your face about it. And
yeah,
Teen Beach Movie is not Pixar, obviously,
no,
but yeah, I don't even want to think about the sequel, and it's sad because there are some really good songs, but I guess you can go just listen to them on YouTube.
yeah. I guess that makes sense.
That is our look at some of the worst. Now, I may have forgot some. I forgot those. Thank you for bringing them to the table. They definitely need to be talked about. And yeah, I maybe should talk more about Mission Impossible too someday, but maybe if I think of other ones, I will do another one. Let me know if you liked this, if you like this kind of show where we just cater to all, because I'd like to do this with guests, with me and Corda, whatever. And let me know what you thought. And please comment. Let me know what are your worst sequels of all time. Was I wrong on any of these, or in your opinion at least? All I ask is to be nice, but you can tell me off in a nice way. There's lots of ways we can discuss. And you might mention a movie that's going to be on my list of movies that I want. And we're definitely going to do that soon. So sequels I didn't ask for, but I'm sure glad we got,
Hmm.
and that'll be a lot of fun too. So anyhow, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Corda, for being here, and thank you. We hope we gave you a little bit to think about and take away some of your problems of the day, and you made you smile and laugh and have some fun, and maybe even entice you to watch some of these to see if they're really that bad, or do yourself a favor and watch the originals instead. But either way, thanks for tuning in, and you have a great day.